Alright, YouTube, it's time for Occult Literature Video 24 on the Enchiridion of Pope Leo III. Certainly one of the more diabolical texts, at least if the spurious last mention of the sort of summoning of the devil himself is any indication. As always, link in the description where you can purchase my edition of this work on Amazon. Second link to my books blog where you can find a great many more editions available of things edited and authored by myself and I. The Enchiridion mainly is a white magic text. That is, most of the content of the work, it's about 44 pages, so it's not a particularly long work. Most of its content revolves around the days of the week, sort of prayers for those days, talismans as well. This is the only work other than the Black Pullet, which I, just made a video about yesterday, which really covers the talismanic side of the occult in any great detail. That's about half of its content. The rest is mostly prayers and invocations to Jehovah, the God of the Christians, specifically the Catholic God. Of course, this grimoire purports to be of the manufacture of Pope Leo. Now, is it actually from Pope Leo to Charlemagne? Clearly no. But that doesn't really matter because, of course, the Sword of Moses has nothing to do with Moses, the Testament of Solomon had nothing to do with Solomon, and so on forth. The most interesting passage within the work, though, for the average, newer age occultist, those that are sort of my age, is probably the fact that it purports to be capable of imparting to you a ritual to summon the devil. That is, if you want to go to hell and serve Satan and gain power from the devil, it does have a ritual to do this. Now, looking at the rest of the work, I can tell you, this passage is not original to the first edition of the Grimoire of Pope Leo. It's probably added by a Protestant at some point in order to defame a Catholic figure that the work was associated with, or some heretic threw it in. That being said, it appears to be a French inclusion. The mannerisms of the ritual appear to be French in motif. Probably comes, half a century later or thereabouts. That appears to be when it was thrown in, if the content of the ritual is any indication. Most of the rest of the material is protective. That is, this incantation, this talisman, to protect you when you're at sea. Another to protect you on a journey by land. Another to protect you, in such and such, to protect you from sickness or something like that. It's very typical of the grimoires from the period. Now, this is not actually derived from Catholicism per se, in the sense that the clergy would have actually accepted such a work. I'm sure that the prayers and the invocations specifically to the Catholic God went over well with some clergy members. Others probably declared it heresy. But it's still an interesting work, no doubt, because it combines the invocations and prayers, which are typical, with the talismanic art, and then it throws you a bone if you're into the more dark aspects of sort of these Christianized ritual forms, and allows you to summon Satan, sell your soul to the devil, essentially, in the most literal respects possible. You can't get any more literal than this. It involves a skull and the black candles. Can only be performed one day a year. I believe November 2nd, if I remember correctly. But ultimately, the Enchiridion it's one of the more well-known grimoires. It's one of the more well-known works within the occult as far as having a diabolical reputation. Now, the original with just the talismans and the prayers isn't diabolical at all, anything but. It's literally just for protection, to obtain, fortune in some manner. It's folk magic in that respect, but it's really twain with Catholicism. It would have been considered generally acceptable. And there were occult literature pieces at the time that were more or less accepted by the Catholic clergy. We must not forget this. But certainly the extreme ritual of summoning Satan is neither original to the first edition of the text, nor has anything to do with Catholicism, other than maybe, I guess, the devil appears in the form they would have accepted. Altogether, though, it's one of the better works. It's also one of my better selling works. It's also got an extremely high quality to the images. This specific edition, I wanted to push the limits of sort of the DPI that I could get into the images, so they should be like razor sharp, as opposed to normally it'd be like average resolution for a text. For this one, for the talismans, for the pentacles that are listed there, I wanted to go all out, really render them in as high a quality format as I could. So I like double process them, increase them, and increase them. I mean, it was insane, ultimately. The final result, as far as what I was looking at on my laptop screen, was nuts. So I'm sure that the images are going to please your eyes within this specific work. So again, link in the description where you can buy my edition of this work. It's complete. It's not like the I can't remember her name. Some lady did an edition of the Enchiridion, and more than half of its content does not appear to be original to the original text. When I edit occult manuscripts, I try to be as original as possible. For instance, with the Clavicles of Solomon, I left out a great deal of material that had been amalgamated with the original first, as far as we know, edition over time, because even though it grew to be accepted that it was from the same manuscript tradition, I wanted the original. I wanted the very first kind of cut of the actual material there to be offered to people. I may make an expanded edition later, but I wanted to release that as well. The same is true of the Enchiridion. All this other material from other manuscripts that can be dragged in, it has the same general idea behind it. It comes from the same tradition, maybe even appears in antiquity under the same title, sometime in the Renaissance or something like that. It doesn't matter. I wanted something completely and utterly original to the original, the absolute, objectively original version of the work. So it's definitely one of the better titles, and also one that I spent a great deal of time on as far as image quality went. That's about all. Peace out.